Slowly drifting, drifting away. And it feels like I'm drowning, pulling against the stream, pulling against the... Hey guys, so today I'm bringing you a new install on a catch can. So, well, here's the motor. I'm gonna get back to that. So, this is my new garage, full of shit as usual. Here's a new desk. It's my new little lamp that I made. Well, I didn't make it. My job kind of threw it away, so I kind of took it and fixed it. So now I can work on all my stuff here. So here's my previous catch can, which worked for, was one of these air water separators from a air compressor that I made with a little piece of shit mount, and this thing was actually doing its job. So you see there's some material there with a shit ton of oil. So this is the problem with it. Let me see if I can put it in the light. You see those lines right there at the bottom? Those are cracks. So after a while, this plastic housing tanked, and basically, if you're wondering what this is basically a drilled out tire valve for a wheel, which I bottomed out, and I glued this to the top and whatever, and it sealed it, and it worked good for about, hell, almost close to a year. So, and this goes on the passenger side. I don't have any oil on my intake side, so I don't really worry about that. But yeah, so this thing worked for a while, but as usual, the plastic got fucked up. So with some research, I went on, gotta jump this over, went on eBay, and I found this guy right here. This is a Billet Technology oil catch can. Whoop, sorry, almost dropped it. So this is a Billet catch can, and these are the current hoses that I hooked up because I just realized that the other one was leaking. So this is not the correct size. The size that you guys want is this one right here, which is 3/8 or 9.52 millimeter. This is the top oil. Now granted, this is not going to be enough. This is all I have left, and it's July 4th. So since this thing decided to leak on me today, I have to fix it with what I can. So here are the old connector hoses. So this was using a 3/8, which is this guy right here, but again, the length. And this is the other fuel hose that I have, which is a bit thinner, but it did work. And I believe this is for an oil cooler. Yep, transmission oil cooler. So as long as this can hold either transmission fluid or gas, I mean, it should be fine. You should not have any issues with it, with corrosion or any of that mess. So yeah, right now this, and this is basically, so air goes in, this side, gets dropped in here. This does have a filter, which I'm going to show you right now, and it comes out this side onto the intake. So the inside, sorry, I have to do this with one hand. Bottom screws open like so. So there's the bottom. It's super clean, hasn't been used. And there's the intake. You guys see that it is baffled. It does have baffling material in there. It's stainless steel wool, which I fixed. So basically what I paid for, this is the most important part, that the catch can is actually baffled. So yeah, I got it on eBay for about 55 bucks, and normally this company makes them for like Mustangs or Corvettes or Challengers, which is actually, no, it is for a Challenger, because I bought a second one because the same guy was selling two of them, a black one and a silver one. The silver one I gave to a buddy of mine for his Challenger that he bought with a mount, that he ordered a mount with, and worked perfectly. I mean, OEM. So it's basically made for Challengers. I got a good deal on it, and I'm not afraid to fabricate a mount for it, which I did. So I got a piece of metal that was old, and before, the old catch can was here, so this bracket was coming here, down here, and then it was kind of sitting here. This area, as you can see, is now full of oil because the catch can was leaking and I didn't notice because I'm a dumbass. So now I mounted it. I made this little bracket that sits on top of this fan, top of this hose, and it gets attached to here, and then in turn holds the catch can right there in the middle, which is perfect. And then this thing, I don't know where this bracket came from. I found it. It has a little rubber grommet in there, which is nice. And then that is this is obviously the passenger side. So there's the PCV valve, okay, which is oily as it should be. And the other one is actually under there, which you can see. So to get that one out, you basically already loosened these two guys. You should have 4. I only have 2, and it's easier because I don't have to underneath there. So you take this cover off, put this thing off to the side. Normally, on a regular car, brand new OEM, there's a hose that connects from here to here. So what ends up happening is that when your car is running, I'll explain that side later. What happens is that when your car is running in an NA car, okay, NA, the excess vapor comes from here into the intake and gets burned up and out your exhaust. The problem is that doing this messes up with your fuel ratios, as you guys noticed. So, thank you, Nissan. This is all, of course, for emissions. Now, the same emissions can be done by putting a catch can, because it's not burning, it's just sitting here. So this is what I'm going to do. And this will, I mean, mine's already clean, so I don't have to worry about it, but the inside of this is a mess. Normally, if you put a plenum spacer, like I did, you can wash that all off, put the catch can, and 2 birds with 1 stone type of deal. The second one is going to be a bit harder. It's that, that's a water hose. There's a hose that comes from the back of this plenum around here, and normally on the stock intake, there's a bottom plug that goes into the intake. It goes right there. That one barely sees oil, okay, barely. If you have oil in there, then you have to put 2 catch cans. There's a couple ways to set up. Sorry that I'm going back and forth, but normally 98% of the time on an NA motor, passenger side is enough. If that side's leaking, you have 1 or 2 choices. One, you make a separate catch can for this side and a separate catch can for that side. That way, the air gets circulated in the motor and doesn't vent to atmosphere. Venting to atmosphere in the US is probably illegal, hence why they did all this. And if you live in a place where you have to pass smog, you probably won't pass it, etc., because you're going to be smelling oil fumes everywhere. Now, to set that type up, basically all you do is you close off this vent that's back here, that's normally under your intake. You plug both of them up, and you run one line from this to a catch can, and another line from this to a catch can, and the catch can has to be vented, okay? Key point, vented. If you don't vent it, you're going to get too much pressure, and your car's going to fuck up. It's going to start idling incorrectly, etc., etc. Other thing, if you plug that up and you don't do it correctly, you will get a vacuum leak. So if for whatever reason you're doing this install and you have a vacuum leak, check your lines. 98% of the time it's because you didn't have the correct diameter, or maybe a line is loose or whatever. Now, in my case, I'm only doing the passenger side. That side is fine. My intake is dry. My plenum is clean. I don't have to worry about that. So this is only going to cover the passenger side. So now that that's said, an easy way, by the way, if by any chance you guys don't have the correct hoses, because in this case it is an emergency and AutoZone is not open tomorrow, this system is vacuum, okay? Vacuum, okay? That's why they call it vacuum lines, okay? This will not have pressure inside of it, okay? This is not a pressurized system, at least not on this end, okay? So these lines, for the most part, will be seeing vacuum, okay? If you make the line too thin, it can clamp, and then you'll have a big headache on your hands, okay? So try to get at least something that like this for temporary, okay? If for whatever reason the hose, this is 5/16 by the way, if by any reason you're probably wondering why I have this screw here. This screw is just slightly bigger on the inside diameter than this tube. This tube does not currently fit over that valve. So what I have to do is basically I have to put a slightly bigger screw inside with oil, to stretch out this hose. While this is stretching out, I leave it for 10-20 minutes. I have my 2 clamps here. These are already, I did the same thing with these because these are obviously much bigger than this. The 3/8 fits in there perfect. The 1/2 is technically what this is, but the problem is that if I go with 1/2, again, at this moment, I'm gonna buy new L connectors and all that jazz later, but I need this to run because tomorrow I have to go places and I don't have my default hoses to put it back to stock, which is my fault. Okay, so if you have yours, good do. Don't throw them away. Actually, I do have them. They're in here, but I don't feel like having to re-clean my plenum, so I'd rather run those hoses now. So I'm gonna start putting this back together. Just wanted to give you a runaround. It's not really complicated, okay? If you have to fabricate them out, just keep in mind so that nothing touches, nothing rubs, etc., etc. I used this clip, this bolt right here, which is basically a clip that holds this in place, so it's nice and firm. I cut this piece off, that's fine. You know, this has a rubber mount, it's not going to vibrate, and it's going to clear the hood. So make sure that whatever you do, it's like below a certain level. So this is below this. So if this is below that, it'll run and won't have any issues. You're not going to run with vibrations or shit all on the hood or any of that stuff, which is not fun. Okay. Yep, that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and install it. Unfortunately, I'm still using my phone, so I'm going to try to give you as good of a install as possible. But yeah, normally universal catch cans can go in different areas. I have a big fucking radiator. Normally, even with a single system, you can keep it here. Any of the, actually not these bolts, but this bolt, this bolt, this bolt, this bolt. See, this one's loose because this is where I had it before. I had my catch can here, and it was just running one line to there and then one line to there, and that was it. And it was super ninja because this cover would go right over it. In some of my older videos, you can kind of see it in there. But when I upgraded the radiator normally sits here. It pushed it about an inch that way, which interfered with the catch can. So naturally, you gotta improvise a little bit. Okay, so let me at least connect the catch can here so you guys can see it, and then we'll start installing the hoses. All right, guys, catch can is installed. So again, super simple. Paint line goes in there. Intake line goes into intake with clamp, clamp, clamp. Everything's clamped. So now the way you test this is that you turn on the car. If you hear a hissing noise or any type of rough idling, that means that one of your hoses isn't connected right and you didn't listen to what I told you. So plug everything back in. See, right, route the hoses intelligently. That way you're not rubbing anything that could potentially be hot or anything like that. And make sure this is not touching anything sensitive per se. No belts or hoses or anything that can potentially touch anything else. Okay, that's the key. Don't fuck this up. This is really easy. I trust you. Okay, so now turn on the car. Bam, bam, thank you, ma'am. Now your car's gonna be running clean. Enjoy your catch can. It's 50 horsepower to, oh, I'm sorry, I did forget to mention that this adds 50 horsepower to the wheels. Okay, so if you're on a dyno and you're making 240, now you're going to be making automatically 250. It completely bypasses all your parasitic draw from your belt and your transmission and differential and all that crap, which doesn't matter because this by itself makes 50 horsepower to the wheels directly. This has a direct line with the back wheels. So trust me, you'll feel it in the butt dyno. All right, guys. I'm going to try to make more videos. Money's kind of rough, but whatever. Hopefully I can get you guys more stuff, and, you know, subscribe, share my stuff, whatever you can helps me out greatly. I'm going to see if I put a, like a fundraiser type of deal that I can buy more parts and show you guys how to install different things, brake pads, calipers, stuff like that. So yeah, if you have any ideas of what videos I should write, just please just comment below. Subscribe wherever the hell I decide to put this, even if I do. So yeah, that's it, guys. Thank you very much. See you next time. Okay, so catch gun's in there. That's where it sits. So as you can see, it clears everything nicely. So little trick, add a little bit of oil inside your tubing. And don't forget the clamp. Otherwise you're going to be doing this twice. So
and it feels like I'm drowning, pulling against the stream, pulling against the